Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Rise and Grind. I'm 72 the Architect, aka Jason B. And today we're going to talk about now or later, you choose. So it's going to be a great episode today. So stay tuned here in just a second as we get going. All right, welcome to what is it, May 22nd? It's just about the end of May, and it's been an incredible month on Rise and Grind. And so I'm going to start to rebrand the show as just Rising with 72 the Architect. And the reason why is I've done Rise and Grind for over a year now, and I've really had a lot of pleasure doing it. But because it's been very hard for people to find me without giving them a website, direct links, things like that, I'm going to make it more searchable. Just put Rising with 72 the Architect. So that's one of the announcements that I'm definitely going to put out there, and that's something that's important to me. So with that being said, we're going to work on today. So the topic of today is now or later. And where did it come from? And so when I was reading earlier this morning, I took pleasure in asking myself, can a good person be right here or right now? Or blah, 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 And I think it's an important question to ask. A lot of times, and here's where it comes from. I was thinking these other days, like I listen to many of my friends, and there's always some kind of discussion of what really matters right now and what am I working on for later? What really matters? Do our friends, our family, or do our endeavors, do we hide things from the people that we care about? Do we have to so much really work on keeping secrets? And, do we postpone things till too much till later because we don't feel like we don't have the right education, or we don't have the right tools? I'm not in the right place. But what's the difference between people who just go and do it, and then they fix it along the way, to people who, articulately plan things out, And yesterday I heard some things. I heard in here in Breakout and YouTube, I heard my colleagues say that I'm a perfectionist, and I had to define what perfection really is. And believe it or not, it's not really so far off of what we think, but we assume it to be so much more. And what the critical thing about being in perfection or being a perfectionist is really more about who, what, when, and where, whatever the thing that is you want to get done. Say, like, you want to become smarter, you want to become an influencer, you want to become an online seller, you want to be whatever it is, a doctor, lawyer, an accountant, something of that respect. But I want to share with you two quotes exactly that are very important, that made an impact about me, and thinking about, do I have to really plan things out so far ahead to where I just feel stagnant and not going? Or do I keep making progress every day? And that's been really the theme about Rise and Grind. But today, like I said, I'm going to start to rebrand Rising with 72 the Architect, and it's just going to be easier for me to find on YouTube. So two Stoic quotes today, one to think about. You get what you deserve. Instead of being a good person today, you choose instead to become one tomorrow. That's a very big one. The other one comes from Seneca, and he says, I don't complain about the lack of time. What little I have will go far enough. Today, this day, will achieve no tomorrow, will fail to speak about. I will lay siege to gods and shake up the world. Now, I think those two quotes say a lot about us. I remember when I was growing up, my mom would always say, especially when we were poor, she would say things like, when I get my tax return, when as soon as I get a better job, this will take place. And that feeling of not having is pretty a lonely feeling. And especially when you have kids or a family or friends to take care of, maybe you can't afford uh, a a nice car. Maybe you can't afford the really big house that you really want, but that doesn't take away from what you can do now. And I think the important thing is what you do now, what you already have before you get the thing is that you want is to really appreciate what you have now, because what you have now formulates, it's the foundation of what gives you the ladder to actually have what you really want in your life. See, like you're living in a situation you don't want to be in. Well, ask yourself, did you put all the best of your time into the things that where you really want to be? And I was talking to some colleagues and friends about this, and some of them said that I just don't have enough time. And I'm like, really? And I got this notion from listening to an influencer years ago, Gary Vaynerchuk, and he was asked, I just don't have enough time. And Gary said to him, he goes, well, you know what? I bet if I looked at your time throughout every single your day, 7 days a week, 24/7, I'm going to find a lot of gaps where you did not give your time to the right things. Right. So the guy's like, he's like befounded. He's like, what the hell? Like, oh yeah, you're right. And where we say we don't have time, believe it or not, there's huge gaps that we do. And so when we look at the amount of time that we have, time is irrelevant. Where you choose to have your availability is, where you choose to have your attention is probably the most important thing. But when I think about what really matters when it comes to time, am I giving my best? Like yesterday, I put down my phone. I was going to film. I was in San Francisco. I went to the restaurant Cha Cha Cha. I had some great Cuban food. I went to a park, the Golden Gate Park, and we went to part of the park where it had a playground. It had, my daughter just wanted to play. We actually brought her kite. I bought my daughter a kite. And it was a windy day yesterday, and we literally just watched her play. We were gonna fly a kite, but it didn't matter. She played in the playground, met some other little girl, which was kinda scary a little bit, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But the thing is, I didn't care about to be online. I cared only the quality of time I could give, um, to my lady and to my 5-year-old. As much time as they get, and sometimes it's little and sometimes it's a lot. All I did was I just sat in amazement. That's all I did. I took in the precious moments when your children are so little, because when they grow up, when they have a mind of their own and they want to go take off and do whatever it is they want to do for being an adult, you as a parent hold on to those experiences. They're precious to you. So why can't we do the same with our opportunities? Having a place to work, having a career, taking in the money that we earn and not so eagerly to spend or to have to rush off to always have to pay a debt. And I think that we're in this rhythm of paying a debt. So it's like, here's the big caveat. And the caveat is when your bills get so high, when you lend against yourself, stress is like the whip. It just like, it just smacks you. And all the things you want to do, go out and have a good time, go on a vacation, enjoy nice clothes, afford a nice car that takes you on experiences. Sometimes it just seems farther and farther away. And so what happens is eventually we put it on layaway. So the later for the latter, right? And in the meantime, we buy little things that take away from us getting closer to not just our goals, but the way that we want to live. And so what I thought about as I'm sitting in the park yesterday and I'm watching my little girl play, there was another little girl pretty close to her age and height, and was playing, and they were running around, riding the slides, and we sat down, and I watched my little girl just run off into the different parts of the park, and I'm like, and I told my girl, I was like, "Hey, keep an eye." She just ran over there, and she's like, and as a dad, I'm like moving closer, because you don't know in a big park, these kids can be snatched real quickly. So she's running back and forth to the swing and then to the slides, and it just like, and it's a big park. lots of kids, lots of parents. And as me and my girl are sitting and watching, this little girl's dad, I think he had special needs, and he just took off. He took off to the bathroom, and then when he came back, you know, he was looking all confused, like, where did she go? I don't see her anymore. And the bathroom was like probably about 100 yards away. And I could tell he was a little slow, no disrespect to him. But I thought right there in my presence, we were preparing to go. But I stayed and I watched. And my girl was like, oh, why do you, what's up? And I go, where is this girl's parents? And why it's so important is because she's like, oh, I'm sure her parents are nearby. They're watching. I'm like, no, I'm going to stay here and watch. I'm going to keep an eye on this girl until I see a parent's eyes or someone really looking for her. And so I remember the guy wasn't for sure where this bag and this soda was. The girl came up and drank the soda while he was gone, came back, and he looked all confused. And he was just like, I said, is that your daughter over there? The curly one that's been playing with my daughter? And he goes, yeah. And he was walking with a limp, and he looked like he was scared shitless. Excuse my language. He was scared. So had I not made the choice now, and even though my girl was like, oh, she'll be fine, it's okay. Had I not made that choice, that little girl could have ran off into a huge park that Golden Gate Park is, and she could have been lost for good. And that is really when you know that you're making the right choice. Now, how can you apply that to your regular life, your finances? How can you apply that to your loved ones? Like, how much time do you really spend with your loved ones, your partner? Are you going to keep working so hard so you can have more abundance, and then later you have no connection? Or you work on the connection and saying, hey, babe, you know what? I'm working 10 hours today, or I'm working 12 hours, but here's my time coming up. I'm going to be there at this time. And me and my girl, we've had these battles. We don't live together, but we're working on our marriage. We're going to be married soon enough. And she brought it up yesterday. So as I'm like looking at this situation, and I'm like thinking about this episode today, I wanted to call it Now and Later. I started thinking about, I delayed a marriage based on money, based on position, and it causes a lot of problems. And so what I thought about this, and what I got out of all this, and I thought about the quotes, you cannot delay being good later too long. It will not serve you. It'll be gone before you know it. Jenny, welcome up to the stage over on Breakout. Thank you so much for listening. Let's see. I think I pressed the green button. There we go. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning.
Anything you care to add, what you've been listening to?
Well, I wanted to add regarding the money situation when it's in a relationship or in a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Just like a marriage grows, the money should also grow. It's always healthy to, of course, have an account with the two of you, and then separate accounts.
I agree with that 100%.
There's nothing wrong with that. So it's always nice for a woman to have her own little, her little money so she can splurge, just like the man does, like they want to buy their little hobby toys. So it should work both ways, 50-50. Also wanted to talk about the park situation with the child. I get that way too as a mother. If I see a little girl or a little boy just standing there and there's no parent figure, my antennas come up and I'm like, wait a minute, where's the parent? Because some kids, they do wander off. So I sometimes be like looking around to see if I see a parent looking around too for their child, then I'd be like, he's here or whatever. But sometimes I'll stay around just to make sure and watch the child. Don't get close to it, because nowadays, you can, people are going to start thinking that you're going to kidnap the kid or whatever. So try not to get close to the kid, so they won't think that of you, because you're trying to do a good, but not other people would think that of you. But, just be around it and make sure that the child is fine, because it is. If you don't, you never know what can happen to that child. There can be another predator out there who's looking at that kid while you're watching his back. And if you look away, boom, that kid is gone in seconds.
Right. And that's
So,
and I think that's a decision that represents you as a good person, and you as a parent, as you as a human being, is
yes.
when they're defenseless. And the point is, what does that really represent in the real priorities of our own lives? Like, look, it was getting towards like it was getting towards dusk, and I was going to wait there until I saw this little, I mean, the girl was like, she looked like she was 4 or 5. She's defenseless. And I made sure that I'm no less than 100 feet away. I followed my girls. They were playing together. And then the little girl just darted off into another area. My daughter was like playing on a slide. And I told my girl, hey, babe, watch valet on the slide. And I walked over to the swing set far away. And I just kept an eye. And then I seen the guy approach, and I said, hey, is that your daughter? He picked up the white bag and the soda can. And he goes, yeah. And I'm like, and I could tell he was a little slow. But the thing is, the responsible thing is, I'm not going to delay me being a good person for later. I mean, and what it told me is, what if my daughter were in the same position? What if I needed to go to the bathroom desperately? What would I do? Well, my common sense would take my daughter with me to the bathroom, and that's it. But this guy didn't think that, and I'm not going to judge him for it, but it could have been a very dangerous situation. She could have been, like I said, something happened. But what does that represent in regular life when it's not a crisis? When it's, especially when you're dealing with partnerships and relationships, having separate accounts, some people take offense to it. Like, hey, what's my money is your money. No, I think that we have our own individual selves, and then an account that we share that goes for the expenses. And I don't like always sharing how much I really make. I don't. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And the reason why is my own lack, I've been taken advantage of. And so I'm just not so eager. So when I think about these things, when I think about what's actually taken place, does that make me overguarded against my partner? Or does it make me just selfish? And it's a tough situation to really look at. And Gina, you're right. Money isn't everything, but money grants access for things and movements and actions. We can't deny that. You can love for free, but love costs. Your provisions, your protection, and how you preside, it costs. It costs time, it costs money, it costs attention and sacrifice. And if you don't understand that, I'm not directing it towards you, or anyone, but if people don't understand that, then they don't have the foundations to ever build a great relationship. And now we're seeing, Jenny, I know you've heard this, but how many times have we heard men and women saying, I don't need anybody? I mean, I've heard so many times, I can't count how many times I've heard, I don't need a man. And yet they're lonely. They are sad. They are angry. They complain about petty ass things, and they don't want to take advantage of what they can. Doesn't mean you have to have a partner. Not saying that. But what I am saying is why block your own opportunities that you can build with somebody? Because when you build with two that are especially on the same mindset, like I kind of see how you and Ralph, and we've talked for a while, you and Ralph complement each other. And I don't know your whole history, but every time I see you guys and listen to you guys on the different, spaces, you guys work together. You guys counterbalance each out. Do you care to make a comment on that? How long did it really take to get that to where you like, yo, I know this man, or I know this woman?
It came natural to us. I mean, I've known Ralph before we even got together.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I don't know. It's just our attitudes and our vibes. Survival. And surviving. It just works well with us. And he knows what I need. I know what he needs, and we just fill in the blanks together.
And would you say that that's willingness that really comes down to willing to do than as opposed to what's mine? Like some people, they feel like it's mine, and then I'll share with you what I feel like, Whereas the other part
No,
is,
no, no, no.
the other part is
It's
like, hey,
nothing.
I'm totally willing to share with my partner because he deserves everything without.
No, it's always been like that with me and Ralph.
And that's
Yeah.
awesome.
If I have a sandwich, I give him my half. Whatever I have, I give him my half always.
Yeah. And is there any point that you do take a part of your own time, your own selfish time, to do something just for you that doesn't include him or anyone else? Is it okay to do that?
Yeah, when I have to go do my nails, or if I want to spend time with my daughter and go out to eat with her, of course he's gonna understand. He's not gonna want to sit there and watch the lady do my nails and my feet or my hair. So that's woman time. So he should understand that, and there's no reason for me to even discuss that with him.
Right. And
so he knows that.
I'm sure he gets that himself. Like, he goes and does his own thing, whatever he feels like,
Yeah. The only thing he does is pick the color for me. That's the only thing I'll ask him. What color would you like to see in my? And we're like, oh, let's do pink, and I'll do the pink. And that's one thing that I'll ask him. But yeah, he lets me have my me time, and I have him have his time. So, and you need to have that. I mean, to be together 24/7 is a lot in any relationship. I don't care what you say, but it's a lot, too much, and it's gonna get to you. So you need that space, and that space doesn't mean that I don't love you less. It just means that I want to do stuff on my own, where I don't have to hear people speaking in the back, or you telling me what I need to do. I just want to relax and just be a woman and do my stuff.
And I think that's important, because when we want to do the things we want to do.
Hey, Gina. Look at that, Gina.
Gina,
I love your PTR, Gina.
She just came over in a breakout, so she saw me on YouTube. Thanks so much for making the comments that you have. But one thing I want to bring out is that I've heard a lot of relationships. I've heard many couples complain that they never have time for themselves. They're giving so much to the family, and they feel depleted. They feel evaporated, not even in existence, because so much responsibility is there. But my response to that is, where is your time most spent for yourself when you can? And some people told me once a week.
And that's why,
yeah, go ahead.
And that's why you need to balance your life. You need to balance every day, what you're doing, your activities, everything. You need to balance it. You can't be, walking around wild, and just doing things crazy and not rationalizing things and not thinking through. And you can't do that. You definitely have to balance.
Yeah.
How much time you're going to spend in social media, how much time you're going to spend in your office, whatever you're doing, how much time you're going to spend with your kids, your family. You have to balance that out.
You do. So, and it's very important that, it's like when I tell my girl, I get up at 4:00 in the morning, and she goes, why do you get up so goddamn early sometimes? Why so early? But then when I laid out my day for her, and she goes, you do you, boo-boo. It's all good. I'm not going to complain. But all I ask, that's all, the only thing she asks of me when I come home. I don't care how freaking tired you are. You pick yourself up for 1 hour when you get home with me to Valentina. Just put that one, I don't care, just muster it up. I don't care if you're beat. It's my one ask. Give her as much energy and passion as you can to her, because she looks forward to you. A 5-year-old little girl, I can't tell you how important it is. And that's why you can't, for you dads out there who listen to this recorded, I'm going to tell you, you don't get later. Yeah, it's mad crazy. You're tired. You're taking a lot of brunt. We don't say a lot, but I'll tell you what, the investment in your kids for that 1 hour you get home, kiss your woman, whatever, or your husband. I'm not really trying to discriminate, but whoever your partner is, greet them, saying, hey, how was your day? and listen for that 5 minutes. And then if you got kids, you know what? Guess what? They're your attention, because that first hour that you get home, that now fulfills them like a whole day, and they're on a high. And as they get older, it kind of drops off because they're interested in their own shit. But then after that hour, they kind of like take off and do their own thing, play video games, play the toys, go outside. That's the way I grew up. Like, hey, when mom got home, when I was growing up, it was like, first we kind of thought, what's for dinner? But then we noticed how beat my mom was by life, bad bosses, things that, there were obstacles and object to you. And when you get in that depleted mode, that's where you have to build. That's where you build the strength, and you build the resonance, the resolve to say, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to put time. I'm off the clock. I'm not thinking about business. I don't want to talk about business. And then you go about your merry way, then you do things. And my girl makes dinner every night, no questions asked. And we sit at the table, and that's the bank of now investment. Because if you delay it, say like you're trying to work so hard, and sometimes you have to work those long hours, those 12-hour days, 14-hour days, and you don't have the extra to give. And my girl will explain, sometimes daddy's tired. I'm sitting down. She'll sit in my lap and she'll read to me. And even though I'm ready to zone off and just pass out, I'm still paying attention. Because that later, when they come back to you, that later, when it matters, because you built that attachment, you built that bank of time with them, the availability. And so when we look at anything, our money, where we want to be, you could be facing hard times, but doesn't mean you need to keep lending yourself to suffer more hard times. So I think that's the big takeaway, and that also means we can complain about things, but if you're going to complain about something, do it the most effective way where it matters most. If it's nothing you can do anything about, or the person you're with can do anything about, don't say anything. Just leave it alone. Write it down, tackle it when you have more energy, and sometimes it needs a decision right now, but give yourself grace, give yourself space. And that's the most important thing that I can tell anybody is, if you're going to make a difference about now, and later, you're going to have to be like mindful. And I think that's the biggest thing, that takeaway for today is, understand what stops you and what propels you, what progress you make. And I'm going to read this last little paragraph that Ryan Holiday happened to share. He says, we almost always know what the right thing is. We know we should not get upset. We shouldn't take this personally, that we should walk to the health food store instead of swinging the drive-through, and then we need to sit down and focus for an hour. The tougher part is deciding to do the moment. What do you give the moment? What stops us? The author Stephen Pressfield calls out the force of resistance, as he put it, in The War of Art. We don't tell ourselves, I'm never going to write my symphony. Instead, we say, I'm going to write my symphony. I'm just going to start it tomorrow. Today, not tomorrow, is the day that we can start to be good to yourself. And so I really like that. And there's a thing that my grandparents used to say to me, no yo soy mañana. I am not tomorrow. And there is no tomorrow to be good. There is no tomorrow. It does not exist. You be good today. Be good in the moment. Trust yourself. Build the trusting relationships and the love and the patience with your loved ones. You can get mad, but remember, is your anger really worth it? And I'm one to speak about this because my anger has cost me more opportunities than I would like, my triggers and so forth. So that's really the takeaway for today. And just before I get ready to close out, is it Catherine Gingras and Lakia Nelson? Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you on Breakout. So as we close, the thought about today, the now, right? What are you going to do today that's going to matter most to you? That's going to be an ingredient when tomorrow comes, will be a better success. And what do you have to delay for tomorrow? The later, right? Or the latter. What do you need to delay so that you can learn and practice? And I talked about this yesterday. Practice makes, the thing work. Let's see. Is it Lakia? Let's bring you on up. I've only got a few more minutes, but what would you like to add? Okay. Maybe you got to unmute.
Okay. Well, the thing that I be trying to get to everybody is like live in the moment and do what makes you happy now,
Mm-hmm.
because like tomorrow's never promised. So I tell everybody to do it now and to be proud of what you're doing now and not to let people stop you of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's very important because this is where we're careful about how we say things to people and what we share, because is it going to take away from my now and cost me a lot later? And I think that with our goals, with our ambitions, to keep a good mindful perspective on truly what matters most. Because I'll tell you what, the gossip about my friend down the street or my colleague at work ain't gonna matter. And I've been saying this lately to my friends, and I've been saying, don't count the change in somebody else's pockets. Don't count their bank. You count yours. It's very, very important that you look at what you have first and not your lack compared to somebody else. Because here's one thing that kills most people's ambitions and dreams is when you contrast and overly compare. And if you don't get that now, it's going to be a hard, long lesson, and you may never get it, but you got to be willing. And that's why earlier, I know, Lakia, you weren't here earlier, but I was talking to my good friend here, Jenny, and we we're talking about what it takes to make a great relationship work. And it is willingness, but there is a part where you can be selfish. You can have your own and share. But I think that we're in a world now that says, what do you have that's worth for me to invest? And then I'll talk to you. But if you can't present that resume, if you can't give me that, guess what? You're all hype and you're all talk. And granted, there are people who like to hype and talk a lot. But you know what? People reveal themselves over time. And that's the thing about relationships that I will say. Any kind, business relationship, love relationship, friend relationship, people will show you who they are if you give them space. And I don't expect my friends to be a certain way. But when they show they're twisted, then guess what? I'm not going to get angry so easily. But if it keeps happening and I address it to them and it's like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna let you know on the real. Look, you're fucking up. Excuse my language. You're screwing up. You got to own that. And if you don't want to own, that's on you. But don't expect empathy or sympathy later when you're suffering the hard stuff too. We can all, and that's where I tell people, do not hold people's emotional tickets. I cannot say this anymore. Do not hold anyone's emotional tickets, because you will have more weight on your plate than you can possibly imagine. And then when it comes to you, you have no energy, no money, no love, no patience for nobody. And now you're the one that is toxic. So when people behave badly, try to do as best you can to like, thanks. Now I'm going to call it for what it is. I'm not going to go forward. I've done this to me, even my own best friend, like, and I've told him like, look, dude, I can't support you on this. And that's okay. And it doesn't mean you're not loyal. It just means you're not loyal to this screwed up thing that they're doing. I think that's the takeaway. You guys want to make any closing notes before I shut down the show? Because I'm going to end it really quickly here soon because I got to get to work. That's one thing in the morning.
Well, I definitely would like to say thank you for having this room, Jason. And it was a pleasure. Great topic.
Absolutely.
And I'll see you tomorrow, same time, and Breakout.
Oh, and
room
by the
here.
way,
So
Jenny, when do you
thank
go
you.
on
Yeah.
Breakout? I want to ask you real quickly. When do you go on
Oh my
Breakout?
God.
Do you have you programmed any rooms that anyone else could look forward to?
Well, I'm thinking of doing my breakout news in the morning, like around 8:15, 8:30.
Okay, so that's
But that's
about
just gonna run
5:13.
like 30-minute news.
Okay.
Yeah, like 30 minutes only. So
And where
I don't
else
want to
can we
make it so
support you
long.
besides here? Anywhere on Instagram
Um,
or Twitter?
well, yeah. I mean, if you go into my profile, you'll see all the apps that I'm linked into. You can also find me on Clubhouse, Clapper.
Okay,
Where
cool.
else? Instagram, Facebook. Yeah. So,
Thank you so
and
much,
if you
Jenny.
guys follow me, I follow back as well. So
Thank you
thank you
so much.
guys.
And Lakia, welcome into the room. I hope you give me a follow. And is there anything that where we can support you and follow you in your platforms?
Yeah, well, like I'm pretty much everywhere because I run a worldwide business and a worldwide podcasting. I'm a blogger, YouTube content creator, book author, so I'm everywhere. So you can follow me on the mainstreams if you're into podcasting. Um, any large platforms you can follow. She's a Boss News. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm on Twitter. Um, and that's about it. And probably on YouTube, you can also follow me and like to subscribe my YouTube channel as well because I'm on a lot of different platforms. So I don't want to hold y'all up, but
that's okay.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing your
real
content.
quick, I just wanted to tell her. Real quick, I wanted to tell her just put stuff on your bio.
Yeah,
so
you do
people
need
can
to do
I have
that.
a bio on Linker. I think it's called Linktree or something like that.
Linktree. I don't see it on your profile.
Yeah, I have a bio on there.
We got to see it on your profile. So if you could take some time in the next week, I'd love to see more about you, and that way people can support you. Because on my show, I like to let everyone have an opportunity, and if your content's worthwhile, I'll check you out. You know, I do look at people's stuff, and I don't ask it, I don't demand it, but I do ask, but I don't demand it. So if you have those opportunities, you guys can check me back out on Wednesday morning, usually 6:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for those East Coast users. And what is it, 8:30 Mountain Central? GMT, I don't know. I forget the UK people. So no offense, people. But anyways, it's been a great show. Look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday, and we'll talk to you later. Have a great one.